fantastic club, enjoyed my short time there. And it was interesting because obviously, Andy Ripley, phenomenal sportsman, phenomenal athlete, but we also had Oliver Reed, who was a member, who occasionally would turn out for the sort of 6th or 7th team, and you knew if he was playing because there'd be a naked bar later that night.
Hello amateurs, welcome to episode 28 of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some lackadaisical rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host Tim, and today I'm holed up in Quito, Ecuador. My time in this wonderful country was due to come to an end last week, but this pesky virus means that I'm here for the foreseeable. And, well, things could be a lot worse. The city's in lockdown, but the shops have food and there's no shortage of toilet paper. With all rugby currently cancelled, I'm sure there are plenty of you who will be enjoying a little break from what can become a bit of a grind at this time of the season. But rugby will be back before too long, I've no doubt. What could you be doing now to help your club, your players, or your teammates? These are questions I have no doubt last week's guest, Bill Blythe, will be asking himself. If you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, go and give it a download and be inspired by someone who is constantly trying to improve his club. But my guest this week is the mercurial Piers Mitchell. Piers and I met in Africa in 2017 whilst on a rugby outreach programme, and I caught up with him at Richmond Rugby Club in January of 2020. We talked about our time coaching kids in Africa with the Bhubesi Pride, Piers' self-admittedly limited playing career, some amazing stories about playing rugby around the world, touch rugby and how it can be used as a development and outreach tool to grow the game, club sustainability, and lastly, what it's like to be a rugby dad and living life vicariously through his son. This is one of the most wide-ranging conversations in amateur rugby podcast history. There's a bit of something in here for absolutely everyone, so sit back, relax, and please welcome Piers Mitchell.
Piers Mitchell, welcome to the Amateur Rugby Podcast.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be here.
Yep, and where are we exactly?
We're sat in the boardroom of Richmond Rugby Club down in London.
And what can we hear overhead at the moment?
I think every 30 seconds we're going to hear another jumbo landing at Heathrow.
Yeah, so apologies, listener. That is unavoidable, unfortunately, but hopefully it's not too distracting. So I'd like us to kick off with the story of how we met.
Wow, yes. Well, it's quite amusing, actually, insofar as that Tim and I met in Africa on Bhubesi Pride tour. Tim was a volunteer, and I was actually asked to project manage the first part of the trip, which was Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And interestingly enough, I've known Richard Bennett, who founded the charity, and I helped organise parts of his first few trips through Africa. And we'd had conversations earlier in the year, I think in sort of the November time, about possibly me helping with some of the logistics. And then subsequently I didn't hear anything through November, December, and anyway, got a call, I think the 28th of January, saying, look, do you think there's any chance you might be able to come out and project manage the trip for a couple of months? And I said, when do I need to be there? He said, probably the 30th actually. So not a huge amount of notice. So obviously I had to ask my partner, and she very kindly allowed me to go. So it was very much last minute, but an absolutely wonderful trip and a fantastic experience. And so yes, first met you, Tim, in Kenya.
Yeah, in Nairobi Airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally, I just stood there, having got off a very long flight, feeling a little bit dishevelled and disorientated. And you tapped me on the shoulder and went, "Are you Tim?" I was not expecting to meet anybody in the airport.
Well, I had actually obviously genned up in everyone's bios, so I'd sort of recognised various people from Dubai all the way through. But I think we were all feeling pretty beaten up after our travels. But we had a fantastic trip then out to Ololo Lodge, which is in a game reserve just outside Nairobi, which was a great place to start from, wasn't it?
Yeah, we basically just started on safari straight away, which was a lovely start. I'm interested how you found the trip overall, because it was, how long were you there for? Two and a half months or something?
Yeah, it was 2 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, I absolutely loved it. I mean, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, but obviously I've been involved with rugby in Rwanda for a number of years. So I'd loved travelling to East Africa previously. So it came out of the blue. Obviously, I love travelling, love Africa, so that was a bonus. And then to be involved with rugby, even better. And obviously, we got to go to some incredible places, huge amount of diversity from the worst slums in Nairobi through to the sort of pretty immaculate, manicured playing grounds of schools up in the highlands of Kenya. A huge contrast. But then I think that's Africa, isn't it? There's the huge contrasts you see in all of these countries. Stunningly beautiful. And I think it's just fascinating getting a group of people together who've never met each other from completely divergent backgrounds, engaged in the trip, and everyone's there for completely different reasons, which I think is fantastic. And looking to get something out of the trip, everyone's motivations are different. But I think everyone, certainly for the time I was there, I felt that the trip really came together, that the group worked really, really hard, because it is hard work, during the coaching weeks, it's really tough. And I thought the group came together really, really well. And I particularly enjoyed, I think you did probably, the first couple of weeks when we had Jacques Berger with us. What a character.
Yeah, he was a really good value on the trip and proved, that he almost helped bond the group together, even though he was only there for such a short time.
Absolutely brilliant. No airs and graces on the guy, just really down to earth, solid chap. Yeah, I thought he was phenomenal, and some of the energy brought to the trip was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
So I'm always very interested in the kind of the management and leadership angle within rugby, and I'm just wondering what you kind of used to help bring everybody together.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I think somebody said I had a sort of laissez-faire management style. I'm not sure it was yourself, Tim.
I would have agreed if it wasn't me that said it, yeah.
Obviously I've been fortunate I'd run my own business for 20 years, and I've sort of had to learn, obviously, how to manage a group over the period of time. And it probably took me longer than most other successful business people to work out how to bring a team together and how to lead a team. And you do develop your own style, but I think the thing I'd learned is that you do need to give people, the opportunity to push themselves forward and actually take on the, to be strong within the group. And people find their own natural level, I think that's important, but you just need to give a bit of guidance and support. And take the mick every now and then. I think that's an important part of it. As I'll always remember with Sophie and making sure she'd got her P's, which was obviously prior preparation and all that lot, when she was struggling with one of the management of the tournament. But obviously she went on from strength to strength and became project manager for a couple of years, which was fantastic to see. It's a bit of an organic thing. There's no hard and fast rules. But it's just being confident in your decisions, and supporting the people that you're with you.
Yeah, here's one of the things that I remember that you did specifically for me right at the very start. It might have even been the first meal, where I was the last one up to go and get my food, and there was no meat left. And you saw that and immediately took the meat off your plate and put it on mine. And I wasn't particularly hungry there, and I wasn't desperate for the meat at the time, but I thought it was just a really nice thing to sort of show that the team players are first and the leader comes after that.
That'll never happen again, Tim. I've just done 6 months veganism, so I'm back on the meat. It's interesting, it's interesting from my trips in Rwanda. We generally stay, funny enough, in sort of convents which are run by nuns, but they take on, they have rooms to rent out. And we always share our accommodation with some Rwandan coaches, and every night we get sort of a local buffet, and meat's pretty rare in the diet, as you can imagine. And so when the local coaches are there, and this is like Christmas and Easter come true for them, and it's quite interesting because obviously I've witnessed UK coaches coming out there super tired, super hungry, and all they're thinking about themselves. But actually, do you know what? We're pretty well looked after, so it's always a great opportunity to give the Rwandan coaches their chance. And I'd like to think we'd all support each other in different ways like that. So I'm glad you reminded me of that, Tim. I feel good about it.
Good. You are welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. We had a really good time in Africa, and we we went to, like you say, so many different places. What were one of the highlights maybe for you in terms of which places that we went to?
Tanzania I really loved. We had some difficulties there, obviously, with the local government, which were interesting to say the least, and obviously bureaucracy in Africa in general is interesting. But for me, coming to Nairobi, we had some interesting experience in Nairobi. Obviously, when we were right in the slums, and we met some really inspirational characters, and there was a young guy called Kerry. I don't know if you remember Kerry, and he was basically, he was a 10-year-old kid, basically, bringing up two younger brothers, and sort of running various hustles to do that. But he'd managed to get into education, and through playing rugby, really had some aspirations and some hope. And it was truly inspiring. You think of the battles that he was facing on a daily basis, and all he wanted to do was to be able to get to school and get his brothers to school and getting them fed. And we worry about the things we have in our society, but it's fairly fundamental. So that was amazing. Obviously, landing up in Somali town in the butchery in Kenya was a little worrying, but interesting nonetheless.
That was just to expand on that a bit. We kind of took a wrong turn, didn't we? And
a very wrong turn.
Yeah, and there was people walking down the street with freshly butchered full goats and various other animals, some of which got kind of wiped down the side of the minibus.
Yeah, we got to a point where we couldn't move the vehicles in any direction. We were just surrounded by people, and it appeared that the sort of goats came in one end of the street, slowly got viscerated down to the other end, and it was pretty gory. But you did realise every single part of the animal was used. But there was a faint air of danger, I thought, there, and it just felt that one of those things that was an interesting experience could possibly have gone very wrong,
Certainly the bus went very quiet, didn't it, for a little period of time then?
It did, yeah, and I think we all felt slightly uncomfortable, but, luckily we can look back on it as an interesting experience.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the last things you did before you leave, it was kind of like, I think it was your last night, you did a really nice little speech where you kind of went through almost like player profiles of what you thought about each of the individual team members. I just want you to sort of talk about that, what inspired you to do it, and maybe some memories or thoughts around that.
Well, truth be known, I just loved that whole trip. It was 2 fantastic months for me. I was looking forward to going home because I've got a very young daughter and she was 3 and I missed her desperately. But it had been a really meaningful tour, met some great people, shared some wonderful experiences. And there was pressure from a couple of the boys that we would just have, a court session and, a few beers, and that was it. But I didn't think that really paid justice to what we'd done as a group. Because it was coming to the end of my time there, I wanted to sort of reflect on it and really thank each individual for what they'd done, but also wanted to highlight, I think, the things that they had done and achieved and how possibly they'd developed and grown on the trip. Which I think sometimes we don't reflect enough on what we have achieved. And I think I know every single person who was on that trip had achieved something and was going on to achieve more. I just wanted to reflect on that. And we had a bit of fun, a few beers around it. And I seem to remember losing my voice embarrassingly through it. But yeah, I think it was a little bit emotional for me, I must admit.
Yeah, you did. You teared up a little bit. Yeah, we noticed that.
Thank you.
But I think it was very well received. And I think it was really nice because it kind of it showed that you really cared about all the individuals. It showed that you'd observed and you'd watched and you were really concerned and caring about how people had moved forward and made progress. And it should be worth saying, obviously I'm quite old. And there
Not as old as me.
And there's 1 or 2 other old people on that trip as well. But there are a lot of very young people on that trip too. So I think it was especially important for them.
Yes. No, absolutely. Well, obviously, Lewis had come out of the Highlands of Scotland, and I don't think he'd ever travelled outside Scotland before he'd been on that trip, and he was just first rate, absolutely outstanding, and no, it was a really special time, and funnily enough, obviously it became very hard when I came back to the UK, and I was still on the WhatsApp group, and sort of vicariously still involved, and it felt like leaving all my babies behind. It's very strange.
Yeah, some old babies, but okay. Well, talking about young people, let's hear hear about the young Piers. Where did you start playing? And I'd love to hear about your sort of rugby journey in the playing sphere.
My rugby journey is probably not that glorious and fairly short-lived, but no, interesting. And obviously, rugby's been a huge part of my life. And obviously, I was influenced as a young boy. My dad was county number 8, and played for Cambridge and Old Burconians, and loved the game. And I was fortunate enough to go to rugby schools all the way through, so just absolutely loved the sport, and had always played in some fairly strong teams. Much to my father's disappointment, though, I played 10, and he did comment at one point that he wouldn't come and watch until I moved to the back row. But yeah, no, I had a really blissful time as a youngster playing rugby, and then it's interesting then moving from that sort of schoolboy stuff into senior rugby. And my first experience was at Telford Rugby Club, and I was good friends with a very charismatic chairman, Ken Reynolds, who had virtually financed and built the whole club. But it was a real eye-opener to men's rugby. And
where is Telford?
Telford's right in Shropshire. Okay. Yeah, so I'd been at school in Shropshire at Wrekin. And it was a great club, and it was a great place to start, my career. And there's a couple of sort of interesting, I suppose, passages there other than just the rugby, insofar as I remember, one of my first games, it was a pre-season game, and I can't remember if this is right or not, but I think we were playing Stoke or somebody who were a much bigger club than us, and it was a pre-season game, and I remember being very impressed that there was actually a programme even before the game, with our names in it. And there was me, a very willowy 18-year-old against some fairly gnarled old boys. And for the first 10 minutes, I got hit late every single time I got the ball, absolutely smashed. So our number 7 came over to me and said, look, the next time, just stand dead still. And when the 7 gets near you, just smash the ball in his face. Okay. So I was like, all right, okay, I'll do that. So that's exactly what happened, to spectacular effect. The guy's nose exploded, as did then 30 people, or should I say 29, as I exited left and got the hell out of there, because it was all a bit intimidating. So that was an interesting early experience. But we had a fantastic captain, a guy called Phil Toft, who was probably one of the biggest men I ever met. No teeth, and he looked like he was going to have a heart attack at any moment in time. Quite terrifying on the pitch. And, we'd be well in our half, we'd get a penalty, and he'd just look at me and goes, I want it in there 22. And I used to hit those balls so sweetly because I didn't want to get on the wrong side of him.
That was fear.
Yeah, completely. But thank God he was on my side and not the opposition. I really enjoyed my time at Telford, and it was a great club. And although one of the things I have to say, which was interesting as well, Ken had helped build the clubhouse, and the bar was sort of cantilevered with a sort of old willowy almost branch at the far corner of the bar,
right?
And it looked all gnarled and a bit bent and not very, very strong. And obviously, post rugby, a few silly games, and there was always a challenge put down to the opposition that if anybody could run and knock this post out with their head, it was several free jugs. Anyway, I was like, well, that's interesting. It probably isn't that hard to bash that out, I thought, And anyway, having seen the first couple of people try it, who then were definitely in need of HIAs, Ken informed me there was actually a steel bar running through the middle of this post. But unfailingly happened, more often than not. So quite ridiculous.
Is it still there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's still there. Well, yeah, steel bar. I suppose it won't move, will it?
Really enjoyable club. And from there, I went off to university to Cardiff, and really, was steeped in the passion of rugby in South Wales. I just absolutely loved the environment. It's fantastic. And I was very fortunate to play with some really, really good players, and we were coached by a guy called John Robbins, who'd played for the Lions and coached them as well. He was a prop, but when he was playing for the Lions, he was propping at about 13 and a half stone.
Right. Yeah.
Quite remarkable. But a really, really hard taskmaster, you had to be on your game at all points. But I remember sort of turning up, and if the training pitches were too wet, we used to train down at Sophia Gardens. And anyway, so I was sort of fresher there. I was told to get down to Sophia Gardens for the training session, And obviously I hadn't been listening too well, and I thought the session started at 7 o'clock at night, which I thought seemed oddly late for students. Anyway, Julie went down there, got into changing rooms and was changing, and thought, God, some of these guys are pretty big guys, aren't they? Yeah. Anyway, didn't think much of it. Thought, well, this is a step up, Anyway, ran onto the training paddock with this big second row fella. A really smashing guy. And anyway, turned out to be Bob Norster. So anyway, after doing the warm-up session, gone through a few skills, grew a bit of touch. We then split up into backs and forwards. At one point, the coach asked me what I was doing there, and I said, "Well, I was asked to come here. I'm a freshest." Oh no. University were on from 5 till 7. This is Cardiff Rugby Club. So rather chastened, I left, but I thoroughly enjoyed my first half hour anyway. With some real legends.
Did they not let you stay? They should have let you stay, surely.
Exactly, and I knew I was talented enough to be there.
Well, yeah, God, imagine what could have happened if you got into the contact and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it was. I just remember literally, and I got changed next to Bob Norster, and he was just a man mountain, absolute man mountain. So full respect.
This is Wales international second row, Bob Norster, right? Yes. Did he play Lions as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah,
but incredibly strong, tough guy.
Yeah. So, what was it like going to university in South Wales?
It was just fantastic because it really sharpened you up to obviously lots of boys from playing from the valleys and some really talented lads. I was lucky to play with some really exceptional players. I was very fortunate to have people like Adrian Payne outside me, the centres, and Mike Hall, who obviously went on to captain Wales and play for the British Lions. So they made me look pretty good. It was pretty easy to be good amongst that kind of company. So it was really, but it's that old student story as well. I remember the first game, weekend game. We're up at Blaenau Gwent, and we're getting changed, and captain. I said, right, lads, obviously first 10 minutes, we're going to have a fight, And I'm like, what? What? And so we get on there, and obviously, because we're nice students, the local lads want to rough us up. And anyway, sure enough, first 10 minutes, it was pretty full on. And anyway, game broke out, and, strangely enough, our fitness and skills told, and, we ran away with it at the end, but just fantastic in the in the clubhouses afterwards. But I remember also from that game being very funny. I was playing at inside centre, and the fly half was a guy called Hayden Davis, and he'd just started playing at Llanelli, with Ray Gravel and all that lot. And he was a truly phenomenally quick fly half, low centre of gravity, strong. Anyway, the first time I got the ball in our 2022, he hoofs it down the pitch, and he looks at me and goes, "Has it gone into touch?" And I go, No, it hasn't. Come on, got it. I said, hey, what's going on? He goes, I can't see. Yeah? And obviously this was sort of, pre-contact lens era. Yeah? Yeah. And so he just used to hit it and hope. And I'm absolutely convinced if, sort of modern technology, as in contact lens, be available, he'd have played at the top level.
Right.
I mean, obviously he played for Llanelli at the time with something special, but he was a really fantastic player.
Modern inventions, eh? Being able to see on a rugby pitch.
And then the irony of it is, which possibly we'll touch on later, is many years later, when my son landed up going to Sedbergh to play rugby, it turns out that Hayden Davis was one of the teachers there.
Oh, wow.
Which was a nice coincidence.
Yeah. It's funny how rugby pathways often, rejoin and coincide, and
absolutely,
it happens all the time, doesn't it?
But no, I love my time at Cardiff. It was very special. It gave me a true love of the sport, and Cardiff on an international day, there's no better place. There's no better place.
Yeah, great stuff. But where did you go after that in terms of playing?
Well, then I'm, pretty much like most guys, had to move to London sort of to find some work. Had aspirations of a fantastic city career that was soon quashed. But I started at Roslyn Park, and I was only there for a very short time due to dislocating a shoulder quite badly. But yes, my season there was the last one for Andrew Ripley, which was really special because he'd been an all-time hero of mine. So I mean, Andy Ripley would have been 40 then. I was 22, and he was still the fittest man on the paddock. Just incredible. But what a nice guy. And when I did dislocate my shoulder, I think he was the first person at the hospital to find out how I was. And just an outstanding athlete. But yes, and so one of my finest moments is taking an offload for Andy Ripley. So I thought, that's it. That's my rugby.
I can retire now.
Yeah,
age 23 or whatever.
I probably needed to. But and Roslyn Park, great, traditional club again. I know we wanted to probably touch on that later, but fantastic club. Enjoyed my short time there. And it was interesting because obviously, Andy Ripley, phenomenal sportsman, phenomenal athlete, but we also had Oliver Reed, who was a member, who occasionally would turn out for the sort of 6th or 7th team, and you knew if he was playing because there'd be a naked bar later that night.
I was going to say, he led the drinking, I'm sure.
Completely, complete contrast.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever play with him?
No, I didn't. No. In truth be known, I was there, sort of. Not even a full season.
Okay.
Before I got the injury,
yeah.
and then I started. I went off my travels. I'd sort of intended to emigrate to Australia, and I spent 18 months sort of travelling Asia and bits of Australia. But then talking of rugby and coming full circle, it's quite amusing. I'd been a month in the Philippines, and I was sort of vaguely heading home, and I knew that a good friend of mine lived in Hong Kong, was in the police force there, and played for Hong Kong and Hong Kong police. And so I wrote some vague letter from the Philippines, not knowing whether it would even leave the country, because most mail tended not to.
Yeah, days before email, obviously.
This was in 88,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a long way before email. And so I wrote this letter to Gary Atchison, Hong Kong police. Hong Kong, in the hope that he might pick it up, because I then thought, well, I'll just go via Hong Kong on my way home, and so sort of had no expectations. Arrived in Hong Kong airport, and there's actually somebody stood there with a placard going, Piers Mitchell, follow this. Anyway, got a note. He was working that night, but here were the keys to his flat. Brilliant, yeah. So turned up, and anyway. That night, he said, right, get yourself down to this bar, I'll meet you at this time. Got down there, and there was Mike Hall, who we were both at university with, and he was with several lads who were going to represent the Barbarians in the Hong Kong Sevens. So there's John Jeffries, Scott Hastings, Stuart Barnes, I think even David Trick, people like this. And so we all went out in a monumental lash-up, and these guys were playing for the Barbars on their way to going to play for, most of them going on the way to play for the Lions, it just would never happen,
Yeah.
And so we had a huge night out, which was great fun, and woke up the next morning, really shabby, not feeling good, and Gary goes, you're playing for Hong Kong Police today against some touring team. What?
After months of travelling.
Yeah, so no fitness whatsoever. I've probably lost more weight as well. And humidity's up in the sort of high 90s, and it's hot, And so I turned up at the police ground. I've got no kit. So strange, she said, I'll go and see the groundsman. Oh, yeah, he'll find you some kit. So I got some kit. And anyway, he only had a pair of size 8.5 boots. Bear in mind, I'm a 10.5. The ground's rock solid, so I couldn't even wear socks because there was no space for my feet.
Oh, God.
Felt absolutely hideous. And then took an intersection on my own 22, made the whole distance, and saw most of the previous night then after that. But that was great fun. Really enjoyed it. Fantastic game. We had a fantastic day afterwards. Fantastic night. And then we went and watched the Sevens, the next day, which was just, the old stadium in Hong Kong was really something special. Great experience. And as you say, meeting up again, crossing paths with people you played with previously was just brilliant. But a great experience.
That sounds like a remarkable series of events. I completely agree. Yeah, you just meet up with people all over the world from your rugby life, and it's not to be underestimated. I don't think how valuable that is.
Oh no, and it's sort of come full circle even now, insofar as that my rugby career then pretty much stopped, insofar as that I then moved back home. I set up a business, started a family, and the business was absolutely full on, and rugby was fair. My rugby experience was fairly limited, although I remember getting invited down to the local rugby club, Middlesbrough Rugby Club, for a lunch prior to watching the first team play. And I'm sort of 3 pints of Guinness in, half through my beef dinner. And a friend of mine taps me on the shoulder and goes, third team, sure, do you want to play? No. Wait, you're in. We're playing, right? We've got your kit, you're playing. And I just remember the first, they've kicked deep. It's gone through everyone's hands, straight, one bounce into touch. We're in our own 22, defensive line out, yeah. And I'm playing fly half. We've got Brian Sexton at scrum half, known as Sexy, yeah. And he's anything but sexy. And he's the only scrum half I've ever seen that's never seen his own feet because his pot's so big. And so anyway, the ball somehow gets tapped off the top of the line out down to his feet, where he sort of disparagingly sort of looks at the ball and toe ends it towards me. That's the rest of their back row are going to hit me. So I thought, no, maybe not a good time to make a comeback. But it was great. It was another good fun experience. And but then it was, I suppose it was, I wasn't into my 40s then when having sold the business, got a bit of time and. Decided to join some adventure race out in the Himalayas, which I know this all sounds a bit random.
Yeah.
Went on this adventure race, and anyway, I was just joining up with another team, and because I didn't know any of the people who were doing this as well. And the organizer said, "Look, we've got a group of youngsters from Ernst Young. Do you want to go with them?" Yeah, maybe. And we've got a team who call themselves the Beer Hunters. So they all seem to be all rugby boys. Do you want to go with that? Oh, yeah. That's my spot, yeah.
Yeah, cancel the first team, I'll go with the second one, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, literally met up with them in Heathrow and strangely enough hit it off straight away. And these boys were all from sort of Warlingham Rugby Club. Mm-hmm. Fantastic bunch of lads. And led by Bill Murphy, who claimed to have been the Surrey captain at some point and was probably... As I was later to find out, the only number 8 who's never ever passed in his life. Yes, so we went out to Nepal and did this adventure race, and the challenges were mountain biking, hiking, kayaking, whitewater rafting. Brilliant. And there were also some intellectual tests, and we lost all of those. Although we did cheat voraciously, had all of them, but we won all the physical stuff, which I'm not sure what that says about us really. And foolishly, just in passing, one of the guys said, "How'd you fancy playing in the Dubai Tens?" Yeah, we'll have some of that. Definitely. So anyway, I just thought, it was a bit of chat on the holiday. Didn't hear anything for about a year. And then out of the blue, this guy, Anthony Napton, calls me and goes, we're in. Do you want to play? Come out to Dubai and play. I'm like, right, wow. And so this is the vet, so it's over 35s, I'm 48. Perfect time for me to resurrect my career. And flew out there, met up with a bunch of boys, and only to find out we were definitely in the wrong competition,
right?
When Percy Montgomery, Henry Paul, Apollo Perolini, Gregor Townsend, players like this are turning out, and we're thinking, this is going to be difficult. And we struggled. Have to say we struggled. I don't think the drinking before both days really did us any favours, but we did definitely struggle. And when we played the Scottish, the Steelers. They put us to show on they put us to the sword on the show pitch, which made it even more embarrassing. But not to be deterred, we went back the second year and a little bit more focus, and we were in danger of qualifying for the semi-finals, which would have been a disaster. And fortunately, we lost out on a try count, which was really disappointing. But no, it was brilliant. It was brilliant to be out. I know loads of people have been out to the Dubai event, and it is something special.
How long is the halves in tennis-side?
Oh gosh, far too long.
Too long. Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't know if it's 20 minutes, a half, but the heat was pretty intense. So, and if you're a bit dehydrated, which generally we were before we started anyway, it didn't help.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, on the second year we went, my son was also over there playing sevens. And so obviously I've watched all my son Cameron's career throughout, and being his worst critic and telling him if he touches it, he should never drop it and all of this lot. And so him and his mates come to watch my game, and first play, I've called to go blind. Anyway, lovely pass, immediately dropped it, knocked on, disaster in front of him. So a couple of minutes later, get the ball. Anyway, decided to chip ahead. I regather, I think this is fantastic. I'm looking great. We're playing against Nigeria. I'm going for the corner, and I decide there's a covering defender coming out. I'm going to do a huge goose step, stop in his tracks, go inside, So did the huge goose step, and then nothing. Zero acceleration. much to my disappointment and much to the amusement of my son and the rest of his friends.
It's got to end at some point, Piers. Maybe that was the moment.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, I still have a run around every now and then, but certainly no contact anymore.
Talking of no contact, you managed to become an international, I believe. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, I like to drop that one in. You know that I am an international rugby player, but in touch rugby. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, as part of wanting to get fit to go to Dubai, I started playing a bit of touch. And foolishly, like all sort of original rugby players, thought it was just a version of the touch rugby we'd always played, but it's a completely different sport.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hugely skillful sport. And I really fall in love with it. Really, really enjoy it. And I was fortunate enough to play for England over 40s. And funnily enough, they sustained my worst 2 injuries. So in sort of 4 years of playing touch rugby, managed 2 new ACLs and a double hernia.
Wow.
And I'm still back playing. I've gone back to playing now, and I absolutely love it. But I just think it's just a phenomenal sport. And I love the fact that obviously, you know, you can play mixed. The equipment's minimal, and I just don't understand why the RFU haven't completely embraced it and really pushed it, because, you know, it's a great sport for schools because, you know, the contact's minimal. You need very, very, you know, basic equipment, and boys and girls can all play together.
Yeah. Well, the RFU have done some things, haven't they? Right,
yes,
with the O2 Touch promotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's definitely a growing sector. There's no question about that. But I do agree, it's a brilliant sport. And I used to run a team here, actually, at Richmond. They play a lot here.
Yeah.
During the summer months, and I used to run a team I used to work at British Airways, and we used to bring a mixed team down here to play.
Yeah.
Oh God, for years and years. Yeah. It's very different, but I loved it as a separate sport, as something. Yeah, not the same as the touch you would play before training or anything like that.
No, I just think that I know the RFU have sort of taken on board, but you know the actual sort of, without getting too pedantic, the ETA rules are far more sort of stringent, but also they're really important because it helps create space. And I think I don't understand tag rugby at all. You know, I don't understand the logic of how, you know, some of those skills you're transferring, into the full game. But for touch rugby, I think it just allows people to identify where space is, and the handling skills have got to be great. You know, and you know, you look at the Southern Hemisphere, New Zealand, everyone plays touch rugby. Australia, everyone plays touch rugby, and it's the skills that it brings in, I think, you know, which are really important now. You know, it's we're seeing in, translating into the 15s game that, you know, it isn't about being big and just crashing ball up. You've got to be, you look how well Japan did by moving the ball so quickly, and those are the sort of skill sets I think it's imperative we get into youngsters as early as we can. Definitely.
And it also really emphasises some of the key principles of the game, which is go forward and support.
Yeah.
The most successful touch teams go forward, certainly for the first 3 touches. That's a major priority. Yeah. And that's what you need to do in the big game as well. So I think it's really, really beneficial.
Yeah. No, I love it. And as I say, it's a very different sport, but I've had great fun with it. And I think it sits really well with rugby clubs in general. You know, it's a great way to keep people involved during the summer, and it'll bring in income into the clubs. And I think it also brings a bigger demographic. It's great that, obviously the women's game is taking off, but, it's only going to encourage that. It's going to encourage a lot of, and mixed age groups. And, you can be an old man like me and still run around, and play, which I think is really important.
Yeah, so in terms of building this one club kind of identity and building bonds within a club between, potentially different sections,
yes,
it's great.
No, absolutely. And, and plus the fact that it is a growing sport, and, I was playing over 40s, but you look at the elite game, and if you get a chance, you represent your country at any sport, it's pretty special. And, watching the elite mixed and opens is just hugely impressive, incredible athletes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to something you touched on previously. Your son Cameron and his rugby journey and what he's up to now, and bits and pieces about.
Well, that's I suppose one of the reasons why we're here today in Richmond is because Cameron's plays for Richmond. He's been the captain the last couple of years, and Richmond's been fantastic to Cameron. Obviously, poor lad, from the moment he was born, I pressurised him into playing the game. But I think he's got huge amounts out of playing rugby, and he's had an interesting sort of career through it. Obviously, started at school, played a bit of county rugby, got picked up by Falcons Academy, played a bit there. And then for his sixth form, moved over to Sedbergh, which is just one of the most incredible environments to play rugby in, and that was a really special time for him. Played with some brilliant players, brilliant teams. They played the likes of Millfield, Wellington, and he never lost a game while he was at Sedbergh. And
wow.
They played with some exceptional players. But the actual location in the Howgills up in South Cumbria is just stunningly beautiful. I mean, it's just a dream place to play rugby. But the philosophy they've got as a school is incredible around all sport, but particularly rugby. And also the way they play is that they just don't kick the ball.
Right.
They trust their skills. The amount of times I saw them where they were camped on their own line, won the ball, and then went the whole length of the pitch to score because all the other teams were expecting them to kick, and they don't. They just trusted themselves. And so really fantastic experience for Cameron being there, and the people he's met. It's a fantastic school. There's huge connections here with at Richmond and in London in general. So that's where he started, and then he went to university in Newcastle and moved to Darlington Mountain Park, who were then National 3. And he had a great journey with them, sort of won National 3, won National 2, and then got through a fantastic playoff with Ampthill to get into National 1. And that's a club that's gone through huge changes, a very small little club with a traditional very small clubhouse, moving to a 25,000 seater stadium.
Yeah, tell me about that, because were you involved with the club when that happened?
I wasn't on the board at that time. I was only involved as far as that Cameron was playing for the club. But it obviously became apparent sort of, a couple of years into this experiment that, we needed to get some revenue generating, because previously the club had employed one person, that was a barman, and suddenly you had a 25,000 seater stadium. It takes a lot of managing, and obviously we've had to grow the revenue streams to make it, survivable basically. And that's something we're still developing. And obviously we started to build concerts there. So we had Jess Glynn there last year, which was really successful. We've got 2 big acts coming this year that I can't reveal yet. We're certainly hoping that one of them is going to be a big sellout.
You tease. What a tease.
Potentially, with the right, we can get 30,000 in there. And, it's been a long journey, but proving that the venue works, both to the local council and to the promoters. But there's a real future for there. And we are developing the sports facilities, the whole area sports facility and the stadium over the next few years. So I think it's going to be a really interesting story. But it's been a hard battle, and it continues to be so. But it's it has to be sustainable. The rugby team will never be sustainable off crowd numbers. Just not going to happen.
What are the average attendances?
We'll get 1,000, probably 800, 1,000. I mean, in the playoff game, we had two consecutive weeks where we had over 5,000 there. Okay. So there is a demand for rugby, most definitely. But we won't chase rugby ambition unnecessarily and throw money at it, because we've got to make sure that we can pay the bills, keep the stadium going, and develop the stadium. And then if there is any spare money, that can go into rugby. But that's the sort of not the priority, unfortunately. We've got to be around in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, and really develop that side. Yeah,
I mean, you say unfortunately. I think that's a very sensible, pragmatic way to be. And, the rugby, in some ways should come last, because otherwise, if the rugby comes first and then that fails, you're left with nothing.
Exactly. And, unfortunately, we've seen that too often. And, obviously, strange being at Richmond, they had that awful experience here where they had a benefactor who walked away from the club at the moment's notice, and they had to start again. And and I'm fortunate enough through Cameron to know various of the board members here, and and it's a brilliantly run club now. And it was probably one of the very few clubs in the Championship that made any money. And hats off to them for doing that.
Oh wow, did they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
right. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
Because they didn't throw money at it. They kept the playing staff basically the same as they'd had in National 1. And brought players through the second and third team. So,
yeah, that was a big moment when they got promoted up to the Championship, and that decision was announced, because I think a lot of people thought it was maybe naive or maybe it was possibly even dangerous to go and stay, as basically keeping the same model that they had in winning National One?
Yeah, I found it, highly amusing, because obviously it was Cameron's first season at Richmond, and I was sort of getting to know some of the guys here. And I remember being at an away game at Loughborough, and the chairman, Peter Moore, sort of had his head in his hands as Richmond went in for their 6th try. And I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I think we're going to get promoted." I was going, "Isn't that good?" He goes, "Oh, I don't know about that." And, so I think they did seriously consider not going up.
Right.
But I think there was the feeling from the players that, they should be rewarded for their endeavours, and that everyone bought into it. And I know that it was a hard ask for the players insofar as that, they're all holding down full-time jobs and were expected to do extra training, but still 2 training nights, but then given gym sessions, extensive gym sessions during the week. And I think it was hugely demanding. When you're playing pretty much always against full-time professionals with much bigger squads, it was a tough ask, but, they did incredibly, and to think that they beat every team other than London Irish and Bristol over their 3 years, says a lot for them as a club. So, I think they did incredibly well. And then, truth be known, I can probably say this, they might not, but I think they were robbed of their championship position, possibly by 2 clubs. I'm slightly embittered by it. Maybe they shouldn't remain nameless.
Yeah, I think anybody in the game of rugby will know which ones you're talking about. And yes. I'm inclined to agree. If you can't run a club profitably, and player welfare, I think, comes massively into that equation as well. Like, I know some of those guys that were involved with some of those clubs, and left with physio bills and doctors' bills that were unpaid and things like that. That's not good for the game.
No, it sends out completely the wrong message to what this is about. And I think the championship is struggling for identity anyway. It doesn't really know where it fits. I don't think the RF really know where it fits, and I know that there is a review ongoing, which should be announced, I think, fairly shortly. But it's a sort of it's a really strange league. And if you look, there's no championship games this weekend. There really aren't enough meaningful fixtures in the league, and they have a disastrous competition that nobody's interested in. So it's a strange league, and there's lads trying to make a living in it, but is it really sustainable? I'm not sure.
Not for the players, certainly. I've had a few people that have played through that league, with the eyes on potentially getting up to the Premiership. And it's brutal. It's brutal. For the amount of money you earn, it is a brutal league for the vast majority of people that are in it. So I'm not quite sure where it goes for that.
No, it's interesting, but I think obviously rugby is still, as far as terms of professional sport, a very young sport, isn't it? So it's sort of all these things are emerging, and I think the whole review about Championship, National 1, National 2, it'd be interesting to see how it sort of how that develops over the next few seasons. But clubs have to be sustainable within their own right. I think that's the important thing. And there's some really some good clubs do some really good stuff. And you look at the likes of very historic club like Coventry. They're really doing the right things. Yes, I know that they've probably had some very good support from 1 or 2 individuals, but they're building the business case. They've got development at site. They're using the artificial pitch for other events now. They're getting good crowds, but they're really working at as events space. So and that's building a long-term sustainable club, which is what you need.
Right, they are, because there was definitely a period of time when I played against Coventry through various leagues where they seemed to throw a lot of money at players for half a season, and if they hadn't, if they weren't top of the league at come Christmas, kind of then it all got cut until the next season. That's what it felt like anyway.
Yeah, I think that culture's definitely changed, and over the last few seasons, they've really set the stall out. And they are, executing a really good business model. And there's other clubs doing the same, but then there's, in equal balance, there's other clubs living way beyond their means, and I think this is the irony. I think we touched on it earlier, just down the road, we've got London Welsh, who, unfortunately went fairly spectacularly bankrupt, having chased the Premiership dream, and they're probably still getting the same crowds as they were then now, as they're flying up through the leagues and playing in the London League, so and they'll re-emerge as a force. I'm sure they will, but hopefully in the right place.
Yeah, like Richmond have done, right?
Yes,
because we were talking about this earlier. Richmond are now in National One and doing pretty well. Again, have they got the ambition to really want to go back up to the Championship, or is this really the sweet spot, winning a lot of rugby at this level without quite that, brutality of the Championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that's been discussed. I mean, it's not for me to sort of get involved in that from a Richmond point of view, but I mean, there's a lot to be said for winning more weeks than not, and not being overstressed by rugby commitments, because at the end of the day, for these guys, this is a side gig from the important thing, which is their jobs. But you get the ethos at Richmond is they really enjoy it. They love the rugby, and they'll have a few beers afterwards, which is great. And I loved seeing that when they're in the Championship, and they win or lose. They'd always have a few games after a few beers after the game, and it was good fun. It was really good fun. You felt, you looked at some of the other players from the other teams, and it was a job. It was just a job, and it could be pretty miserable if you lose week in, week out, and it's your job. It's a long week to have to go through, isn't it? Yeah,
the pressure builds as well. I'm sure if there's not that release of, like you say, the bar time fun afterwards. Yeah, and I know some of these boys in the Richmond first team, and I know some of them enjoy that. That's for sure.
Yeah, they do enjoy their socials. Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. So, what are you doing up at DMP? Yeah. How are you kind of hoping to kind of support this and follow this kind of ethos?
Well, we're doing a lot of work with the local council because we want to develop the stadium. We've got some really interesting potential to do that on a commercial basis with more commercial lets that will fund things. We've also got quite a bit of land that we want to develop for sporting facilities. We're hoping that in time we'll have 24 different clubs based out of the arena. So some real big opportunities for sport in the northeast there. And obviously we're building it as a venue and conference facility. That's developing. Our turnover's gone up drastically. We're still on, a very tight ship, should we say? But there's real opportunity. There is real opportunity, and but we're not going to live beyond our means because we can't afford to do that. We know we've got to pay the bills. But we brought in a professional managing director who's had a lot of experience in rugby and in sports management, which has been key. And we've got a really good board there now. And I genuinely believe, we've got a clear business plan that we're executing. And I think long term, it's a really exciting opportunity. And the North needs sustainable rugby clubs. There's very few clubs now in the North that are thriving. And I think it's important that we do. I think it's important from the RFU's perspective that there's good rugby in the North.
And what about the depth of the rugby? Because obviously you're running the first team, but what about second team and second team leagues and things like that?
Second teams struggle in our area, and we are trying to get another team into the leagues. They'll have to start at the bottom, but we want an amateur team who's playing at a high standard. So we obviously have a semi-pro side who will play National One. I say semi-pro, they'll get a match fee.
Yep.
We're still only training twice a week, so it's not really semi-pro, but they're getting a match fee. But we want lads who are amateur, properly amateur first team, but playing it. If they could get up to sort of National 2, maybe, or maybe the league below would be great. Because then it gives people really meaningful rugby, in a live competition.
Yeah, because you mentioned we were chatting about this earlier, like the second 15 league up there is kind of not working so well at the moment.
Yeah, it struggles because, a lot of teams struggle to get teams out. So more often than not, you'll end up with fixtures getting cancelled or just complete mismatches. And nobody enjoys that either way around, really. And there's nothing more frustrating, and you'll know it if and you play. Well, maybe you don't because you played at a really good level, Tim, didn't you? But I've certainly played for teams where you've turned up on a Saturday only to find that there's no game, because you haven't got any opposition.
Yeah, no, I have experienced that as well a few times. Yeah, it does. Yeah, happens. And it's such a shame. Which I guess the RFU's helping with this now with some of the new initiatives around. They've got this Game On campaign where they're encouraging teams to share players if they can, and I think they changed the rules so that a game can be called complete even if it's only 10 aside.
Right.
So things like that. Yeah. I'm not sure whether it means that the game will get played at least, Whether it's then papering over the cracks of a lack of players and that kind of thing, I'm not sure.
To my mind, and this is obviously only my opinion, one of the big problems, I think, is that there's too many substitutes. And I worry that they're looking to increase this. I know in France they're increasing it, aren't they?
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Well, they were looking to in the top league. I think they were looking to increase the number of substitutes. And I know it's an attritional game, but I think it brings the wrong things out because it allows for people to be bigger and heavier because they know they've only got to do 50, 60 minutes. Now, if you're going to be on that pitch for 80 minutes, you can't afford to have that extra stone on. And as a result, then I think the game would be more expansive. But also, if you haven't got 5, 7 people on the bench, those are lads that are then playing for a second team. Obviously, I think you need some replacements due to injuries and what have you. But I do think we have too many people sat on benches not playing rugby. Obviously, a huge bugbear of mine. There's too many players stockpiled by the top clubs, by Premiership clubs, who aren't getting meaningful rugby, and I just don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, people need to play, and yeah, it needs to be balanced though, because I think I was chatting to somebody the other day who sometimes the young players play too much rugby through their school years,
yes,
and get burnt out with it, and don't play enough different types of sport as well.
I totally agree with that. I think it can become too insular with rugby, and as you say, I think there's too many players do get burnt out too young, which is a shame. But then on the other hand, I've seen a lot of players land up going into academies, going into Premiership setups, and just not getting any rugby. Not getting any rugby at all, and then getting fairly disillusioned when they let go. And it's a hard task then to come back into the national leagues and sort of start again. So I do think there should be more of them playing in the national leagues. Yeah,
with this dual registration type setup.
Yeah. I think within reason that, insofar as that. On the other hand, I think that situation can be abused. I know we've vaguely touched on it before, but it's. If there's a couple of players and they're going to be with you for the year, I think that's fine. But it's when they're just dropping in and out randomly. I don't see the point in that. I think you get signed up, for a couple, for the season, and you'll play, for that club for that season. And I know Richmond do that very successfully with Harlequins, and they'll take 1 or 2 players, but they're the players that'll be with them all year. As a really exciting young chap who's not playing today, and you'll recognise his surname straight away, Louis Liner.
Ah, yes, yeah. Okay.
So he's Michael's son, and he's only 18, and he's obviously with Harlequins, but he played all his minis and junior rugby here, so it's nice he's come back. And so he's been playing. He's played a few games this season, and he's a real standout player. I think he's got a great future ahead of him. Yeah, really good lad.
Be interesting to follow that up. Okay, let's move on. I remember when we were in Africa, Piers, I refereed a couple of games. One in particular was kind of in a training situation where you were playing, and I took great pride in disallowing a couple of your tries for forward passes or anything that I kind of decided to make up at the time, just for fun. But I'm interested, how much refereeing have you done?
I've done very, very little refereeing, and I think I'm best kept as far away from the whistle as possible. And I hope you're not going to ask me anything too technical, because I seem to remember I was in charge of, in my third year at university, where we always had a freshers trial game, and anyway, somebody said, asked me if I'd referee, and I said, yeah, it can't be that difficult, I'll do that. And I realised that we'd had about 8 minutes without a single break in play, because I was just letting everything go rather than enjoying it.
People just stop playing and walk off. Yeah, okay. Well, with that in mind, Piers Mitchell, it's time to find out if you are a rugger law bore.
Sir, are you sure that's correct?
Here's your question. A try has been scored in the corner. As the kicker approaches the ball, it falls off the tee and rolls into touch. What happens next? Is it A, the referee allows the kicker to replace the ball on the tee? B, the kicker is allowed to pick the ball up, bring it back in field and attempt a drop goal? Or C, the kick is immediately disallowed?
Well, logically, I would say that he's allowed to replace it on the tee and take the kick. I'm looking at your face and I know that's wrong straight away. But that seems like natural justice to me. But obviously it's not.
It's not. The answer, unfortunately, is C. The kick's immediately disallowed.
Goodness me.
Yeah,
wow.
It's written in law. If the ball falls off the tee and goes into touch, it's disallowed. Straight away.
And I wonder how many referees know that.
Well, and also, have you ever seen it happen?
No.
I've never seen that happen.
No, that's remarkable.
It's funny that some of these little things, I guess it has to be covered off.
Yes, absolutely.
But unfortunately, Piers, that means that you're not a rugger law bore.
Thank goodness for that.
Some of these questions that have come up, like I've had to obviously research, and this is not something that I knew. There's some weird little things in the game that are actually in the laws that I've never seen happen.
Wow. Mind you, in fairness, Tim, obviously I like to shout the odds on any rugby game, and which my 5-year-old daughter, did point out, Dad, they can't hear you on the TV, which was very profane. But on the other hand, I do like to shout the odds, and whereas you're a more reserved man and a bit more, you're a deep thinker, and you just would every now and then just nudge me and just point out what actually was happening. And I just realised that I was dealing with a far superior rugby brain, and I was sat next to you, Tim.
Too kind. Okay, let's move on to the stash questions. What's your favourite bit of stash that you've ever received? And judging by some of the teams that you've sort of described playing for, there's probably some tasty bits of kit that you could choose from.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, stash wasn't as big in my day, but yes, it was very special. I still got my Cardiff University rugby shirt, which is very, very special. And we did have a bit of a joke, actually, about my England touch rugby kit, because obviously suddenly I had a huge amount of stash, age 48, all branded with the England touch. And to wind my son up one day, I laid it all out in front of his bedroom and came back in later to find all his England county stuff in front of my bedroom. And he certainly got a huge amount of stash. And actually, I've got attic fulls of kit of his that will probably find its way out to Africa at some point.
Yeah, the amount of kit that goes around nowadays it's almost ludicrous, to be honest.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, I remember when we were up in Ginger, and we were having the kids' tournament there, and this little boy runs over and he was wearing a Richmond Rugby shirt.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Well, we found some old Colfield shorts in Russia, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. It's great that all that kit gets and finds a use, in some place where people really need it and appreciate it.
Yes.
Definitely. So what's your next question? What's your favourite kit of all time? So this can be any team from any era.
I've always liked the French kit.
Yeah.
There's always, there's something about it. So I think, and then when they had the lovely baggy shirts, I like that kit. I thought it's always pretty special.
Yeah, good choice. It's very popular, that one as well. Yeah, it's come up a few times. Yeah. And is there any kit at the moment that you think is kind of horrendous? Do you think should be thrown in the bin?
I think Sale, I think it was last year, had a Dayglow kit, which was absolutely grim.
Like yellow, like luminous yellow,
yes,
right?
Yeah, and not to be seen on a rugby pitch. Definitely.
No, it must be kind of distracting.
Yes, yeah, but it just
apart from anything else.
Yeah, it just felt like it was moving back towards soccer.
100%, yeah.
So not for me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, listen, mate, we're going to wrap up there. So, is there anything you want to, maybe offer the listeners, or other things you want to mention again, maybe about the Bhubesi Pride or the rugby in Rwanda?
Yeah, well, quickly, obviously, I'd like to touch on obviously Bhubesi Pride. Phenomenal, if you enjoy rugby, enjoy travel, get involved with it. Look it up. It's a fantastic trip, and obviously you've been on that trip, Tim, and done a huge amount of that. But the other one is Friends of Rwandan Rugby. I went out for a number of years to Rwanda, and they're still doing some great stuff in Rwanda, and it's an incredible country to travel around, really special. So, if you're interested in rugby, interested in travel, interested in just meeting new people, their trips I'd highly recommend. As for anything I can offer, if anyone wants to come over to Mound to watch a home game, I will provide 4 hospitality tickets for anybody who gets in touch with me.
Perfect. And how might people do that, Piers?
Well, if you get in touch with the club and ask for me, they'll know all about it. So just look up the Darlington Mountain Park website, and they can get in touch with me via that. Perfect. I'll link all of that up in the show notes below so people can find that nice and easily. So we are now going to go off and watch this game of rugby. Do you want to say a little bit about that? Because they're playing Blackheath today, aren't they? Yes, it's the oldest club fixture in England, so dates back to 1863. So a really special occasion. There's not many points between these two sides. Richmond managed to win early at the season by a point over at Blackheath, so I think it's going to be a really fiercely contested game. So it's going to be fascinating. The conditions are perfect, as we can see. The pitch is beautiful. So, it's going to be a tough encounter, I think, this afternoon, but we'll have fun watching it.
We definitely will. Piers, thank you so much for being on the show.
No worries. Thank you, Tim. Loved it.
Thanks very much again to Piers. Plenty of laughs, plenty of fun, but a whole load of great value in there too. And don't forget, if you find yourself at a loose end in the Darlington area on a Saturday, get in touch with Piers via the Moden Park website to enjoy an afternoon at their 25,000-seater stadium. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, you could rate and review on Apple Podcasts. What I'd really like is if you mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club, which could be a while actually, so why don't you share it on social media instead? Or bring someone up and tell them, go crazy. I'll be back with you next week when my guest will be Johnny Hilton. Hilts, the man of many nicknames, played Premiership rugby and England Sevens, but the top end of the game isn't always the incredible experience that we dream of as kids. Make sure to listen next week for a fascinating view on the top level of the game. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe and well. We'll get through this together. Well, actually apart. You know what I mean. Stay safe, and for now, don't get out and play.